Good evening, and thank you for logging on to Hidden Histories, URBAN-15's monthly e-magazine for arts and cultural in San Antonio. This is the close of our second season, episode number 23. I want to thank all the people who've helped us through this process: San Antonio Area Foundation, the City of San Antonio's Department of Arts and Culture, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Texas Humanities Council, and of course, our friends of URBAN-15. We want to thank you very much for your help. Tonight's episode is called In the Key of Giving. And the thought is, when artists work, we're actually giving of ourselves to you, the audience. And we're going to talk about ways that the arts in general can be gifts, how they can help people, their well-being, their mental, their physical, their spiritual well-being, just by the act of an artist who plays a beautiful song, or creates a poem, or performs a work by another artist, or does a painting. These are gifts of spirit that we'd like to encourage as the real form of this holiday season, the season of giving. Now, you may be wondering what I'm doing with a Viewmaster, but consistent with our policy of found photos, I want to talk to you about one of these, Viewmaster series number 328. And I found it at the Strand in New York City. I wasn't looking for it, but I happened to just come across a little box, and in there were 12 copies of this Viewmaster file, reel, and it is San Antonio. This is a 1950s found Viewmaster reel, and I want to show you how little has changed. We put these in, these are made on 16 millimeter film. They're kind of hard to scan, but we were able to get good snapshots of this. John put this together for me, and let's run found photos for Hidden Histories number 23. Number 328, Scenic America. That's what it looked like. And number 1 is the Riverwalk. And the Riverwalk on this one is, it's kind of small, of course, but way in the back on the right-hand side, you see the bell tower of St. Mary's Church. And immediately on the right, you see part of a white building. It's a building that doesn't exist any longer. It was the St. Mary's School of Law. It was demolished, and La Quinta Hotel is now there. Number 2, it's a very strange selection, but it's the Buckhorn Hall. It was downtown, down over here at the Lone Star Brewery, and it was a museum of horns. Number 3, of course, is our dearest Mission Concepcion, just down the street from here. In fact, the property we're sitting at tonight, at URBAN-15, was part of the agricultural cultivated areas that was part of Mission Concepcion back at the time of the mission. Of course, number 4 there is Mission San Jose. And this photograph of 1950 shows a further stage of restoration that started in 1934 with the WPA project. Number 5 is, as it says here, the Alamo, scene of the 1836 massacre. Of course, again, that's a political position that whoever wrote the copy, they took it. But this is a beautiful shot. It's very little landscaping involved. It's a pretty reverent space. Of course, there is La Villita, and it says ancient San Antonio on the space there. And there we are back. 7 photographs in 1950 that show very little difference of how the San Antonio tourism industry promotes San Antonio. So I want to thank you very much. Whoever sold these and left these at the Strand, thank you. Now that we're dealing with stereo, let's deal with sound stereo. And we have a guest tonight, Alyson, who is a performance artist here in San Antonio, a musician, a composer, a wonderful human being, a poet, and she is part of a family legacy of Oscar Lawson's family from the Royal Jesters. She is the goddaughter, and she happens to have been raised in the house that was for the former home of Emilio. So, I mean, you're part of the San Antonio music scene. So, we're going to start out tonight with high stereo, Alyson.
Cry now, cry later. I get so emotional when you talk to me and you treat me bad that way. Cry now, cry later. I get so emotional 'cause you talk to me and you treat me bad that way. But baby, if you wanna leave, I'll hold the door for you. But won't you stick around to see the show? Hey baby, if you wanna go, I won't beg you to stay. 'Cause we both know you don't like it when I act that way. You don't like it when I act that way. You don't like it when I act that way. And it's breaking my soul to see you loving someone else but me. And it's hurting my heart to know you're bringing someone else in our dang home. Cry now, cry later. I get so emotional 'cause you take advantage of the way that I love you. Cry now, cry later. I get so emotional 'cause you cheat on me and you know that I won't leave. Hey baby, if you wanna leave, I'll hold the door for you. Well, won't you stick around to see the show? Hey baby, if you wanna go, I won't beg you to stay. 'Cause we both know you don't like it when I act that way. You don't like it when I act that way. Ooh. You don't like it when I act that way. You don't like it when I act that way. And it's breaking my soul to see you loving someone else but me. And it's hurting my heart to know you're bringing someone else in our dang home. And it's breaking my soul to see you loving someone else but me. and it's hurting my heart to know you're bringing someone else in our dang home. Cry now, cry later. I get so emotional 'cause you take advantage of the way that I love you. Cry now, cry later. I get so emotional 'cause you cheat on me and you know that I won't leave. Cry now, cry later. 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 Cry now, cry let me go, 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 cry later, 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 cry now, cry later, cry now, cry later, cry now, cry later, cry
Listen, thank you for the gift.
No, thank you.
Okay. So let's get on to the subject of what we're talking about. This is the key of giving, and if you could give a song or an album or a CD or a download to someone, do you have some piece in mind that you would give to someone to download?
You asked me for 5, right?
Yeah, we'll start out with one.
So a good friend of mine, Chris Condi, just put out an EP called Chris Condi Digital, and you can find him on Chris Condi, the rapper, on Instagram, and click his bio, and you can download his music. It's like
Chris Candy.
Chris Condi.
How do you spell that?
But I'm sure he likes candy. C-O-N-D-E.
C-O-N-D-E.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chris Condi,
Chris
the rapper.
Condi,
on
everybody.
Instagram.
That's
Yeah.
a download you can
He
give
just got signed to
someone.
a French record label, putting out some awesome music. And then there's also an artist from San Antonio by the name of Nigel Williams, and he goes by Heartless the Monster _ on Instagram, and he just put out a Christmas EP, which is really good as well.
So how did you know Chris?
I've known Chris for years. I've known Chris since we both first started out. And so in music, and he was doing like folk rap on a banjo, and I was in a band at the time, and so I've known Chris for a long time. Chris actually started the radio show that I host on Sundays, and he gave me the gift of letting me take over the
So
radio
where did
show.
Chris go to school?
Chris isn't from San Antonio. Chris was, I don't know exactly what city Chris is from. Chris was raised in different cities, but I think he moved here from Baltimore, and so yeah.
And he's here in town now?
Yeah, he's here, he's local. He's actually one of the writers at The Current, and one of the music writers at the San Antonio Current.
Great,
Very talented person.
And the second person is?
And Nigel Williams,
Nigel.
Heartless the Monster _, and then also a band called Mírame from San Antonio.
Yeah.
They put out an EP called Mírame 2, and you can find them on Instagram at Mírame Music. And Leon Bridges is a Fort Worth person, singer. And do you know who Leon Bridges is?
Yeah.
He put an album out last year that was really good too. I wrote it down. Hold on. I was gonna say if you can find that, it's called A Good Thing. And yeah, and I think his Instagram is Leon Bridges Official. And Nina Diaz put out an album last year called The Beat Is Dead. And I think she saw his like pink vinyls, and they might not be sold out, but it was like a really good gift to give.
Well, that was a wonderful night when you opened for Nina.
That was a good show. I love opening
Limelight.
for her. Yeah, I love opening for her. She's a very good friend of mine, and so like I love playing. It's just like playing gigs with family when you're doing.
You talk very quickly, and I'm sure not everybody got those names.
Oh, sorry.
But we will
We
get
can write
them.
it down?
Yeah,
We can write it
we'll
down,
get them in a bit. And if anybody would like to know,
Yeah.
just write us at ask@hiddenhistories.tv,
Yeah.
and we'll give you the entire list of her recommendations for stocking stuffers.
Yeah,
Now,
Chris
the problem
Conti,
is
Leon
with
Bridges.
downloads, how do you stuff them in a stocking?
You can just send them to people, or you can download them and then record them on a CD and then give it to a person that you love. You can even make a mix CD and put all of it on a CD.
Well, one of the things I'm going to use for stocking stuffers this year are the memory sticks of your
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Hey, that needs to be a thing, and there should be more people putting out USBs because you can put a
That's
lot
a
of those
really
in the
good thing. That's a
stocking.
great one.
Yeah.
But anyway, what's the project in mind? Last time we spoke, you were getting ready to do some touring.
Yeah, I
What are
want
you
to tour
up
in the summertime. I just got a job. I'm a teacher's aide now, and so I get some time off in the summer, and I'm going to tour. I'm going to use some of that time to tour. I want to finish an album by January, late December. I'm working on it, and so yeah, that's the goal, is to take the show
So what
on the
studio
road.
are you working in right now? Or is this a home?
It's a home studio. It's a friend of mine who's a producer. Her name is Elena, and she's really good. And I also record my own demos at home, and then so I'm going to be going and just doing as much as I can.
Well, you're always busy.
Yeah.
Every time I
for
talk
sure.
to you, you're like at 50 miles.
I try to stay booked. Just because I love to perform and play, but I also need to be very hyper aware of like my goals that I have set in mind. But it's important to play shows. It's good for the soul to play shows.
So that loving to perform, you do it very much as a gift to people. What is the most profound emotion you feel after a good show?
Relief is very cathartic to play, and I get really nervous before I play. And so when I'm done, I feel relieved that I've been honest with everybody while I was on stage, and I gave it my all, and I performed, and I just laid it all out. And people, you like it or you hate it, So, but that's the gift I give to people, is myself as a whole and everything that I put out. Like, honestly.
So much of your music, though, does have that San Antonio sound to it. And no matter how much technology is in there, or you doing it solo or looping, you still have that San Antonio spirit and that soul.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's the first time I've ever heard that. But I really appreciate that. No, I want to be true to my hometown, and I don't ever want to forget where I come from. Yeah. Because
I could see, if we could time travel, I could see a band from 1966 or 67, Lanier, Edgewood, Brack. That would be the band that could play exactly what you needed there, what you did it there on electronically. There could be bands, we've had that sound before, but you're doing it in such a unique way, and I want to thank you. And
thank
we're
you.
We're here for you whenever, and we wish you the very, very best.
I'm happy to come on. Yeah, thank you so much.
And every year you need to come back and do a stocking stuffer show.
I like that, stocking stuffer show.
Stocking stuffer. Okay, thank you, Alyson.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And we have a wonderful new person here in San Antonio. She's only been here 5 years, and she's now with Gemini Ink, and that's Alexandra Van de Kamp. And she is one of the directors of the community outreach program that Gemini Ink does. She's an author in her own right, short stories, novels, poetry. She's a curator as well. She's edited a number of anthologies. And she has a gift of books and collections by San Antonio authors that ought to go into your stocking stuffer list. So, Alexandra, welcome to Hidden Histories.
Thanks so much. I'm going to give you the official handshake. Yeah,
Great.
Yeah. Well, this is like, for all writers, this is like the hardest question to answer, the top 5, but I did my best. There's so many great San Antonio authors that it was hard to choose, so I kind of went with my whims this week. The first choice is from an amazing, kind of local, very much a local gem, by Naomi Shiabnai, a wonderful San Antonio author. And she actually just came out with a great book called The Tiny Journalist, so get that as well. But my eyes landed on this at home. I have a leaning tower of Pisa of books by my bed with so many books, and this is on top of that tower of books. But it's called Voices in the Air, and I guess if I was going to think about the literary arts as a gift, I think they give us voices, kind of companions through life. And this is what this book's all about. I mean, I'm going to actually read a quote from the introduction because I think it's so great. Naomi claims, she thinks it's from Abraham Lincoln, but this is the quote she has in her introduction. Abraham Lincoln once remarked that all the voices ever cast out into the air are still floating around in the far ethers, somehow, somewhere. And if we only knew how to listen well enough, we could hear them even now. So I just love that idea of ghosts floating around. So what this book does is you can kind of parachute in any page you want, but it's a gathering of voices. She's got poems inspired by Walt Whitman. She has even the Big Bend National Park as a voice in one poem. And she even has a wonderful glossary in the back listing all the voices that she's inspired by, like Elizabeth Barrett Browning, Bruce Springsteen. And I just loved the idea of this book as a volume of voices, some live, some dead, that you can carry with you. So it's kind of a great stocking stuffer idea.
So,
and then, of course, Naomi's a fantastic poet. So.
and is this available online through Amazon?
Yep. It was published in 2018. And if I could have, and this book that just came out, The Tiny Journalist, also fantastic by Naomi, and that's really brand new, 2019. So you could pick the two.
Yeah. The Tiny Journalist, I think she did some excerpts from this during the Mega Corazon.
Oh, sure. No, I bet. Yeah.
She did one from there. There's great books.
So
Online,
that's from the
available.
wonderful Naomi Shiabnai. And then another kind of a really interesting poet is Vincent Cooper. And he came out with this book called Zaza Mora. And it actually opens up with a definition of blueberries, which is what, of course, Zaza Mora means. But I love this book as a San Antonio book because he tells all these stories about his family, his tios and everything. And basically, his family, Zaza Mora Street's it's like the tree of life for his family. All this history has run up and down that street for him. So if you read this book, it's kind of surreal. One day he's drinking beers in a bar with his brother mourning the death of a tio, and the next second they're in a grave in the bar, and that's their tio's grave. So he has a way of really bringing the living and the dead together in uncanny ways. And there's a lot of tragedy in this history. There's a lot of, it's a family that's kind of had problems with drugs. People have been shot and killed. So it's all about kind of this gritty West Side childhood he had. But it's beautiful at the same time. So if you want a really powerful book about West Side San Antonio, I think Vincent's an amazing witness of it. And his family story is just fascinating.
Now, I met this young man last year, and he actually wrote this while he was riding the bus from his home to a call center way up near 1604. It took him almost 2 hours by via to get to work every morning.
Yay for buses as places to write poems, yay. Us writers find places to write. No, that actually doesn't surprise me. There's a very, I know, it's almost like you're seeing the streets of the West Side running through that book.
Now, I do not know this book yet, but the people who put it together are just amazing writers.
This is an anthology. It's called Beauty is a Verb. And I'm the executive director of Gemini Ink, and I had the luck of being literary programs director before I became executive director under the amazing Sheila Black. So she's a San Antonio author. She's a wonderful poet in her own right, but I love this anthology. So basically, it's about the poetics of disability and about how contemporary authors, they tried to choose poets that had visible disabilities. And they're kind of trying to break open what a normal body is, opening up the idea of what beauty is, really. And so it's a series of these amazing poets. Each section opens up with a great essay. So if you're like me and you like reading about the poetry process and the writing process, great food for how all these writers are writing. But for example, like Alex Lemon is one poet, and he has brain surgery when he's young, like 21, and he wakes up and his vision's completely altered, like everything's jumping around. He doesn't have the normal stable vision he has. So while this you could consider tragic, and I'm sure it's been, a kind of a game-changing moment in his life, he then writes poetry that he said it kind of helped him give in to the wildness of his imagination of the world, because he wrote through this new quote-unquote body and it forever changed his work, and he writes amazing work out of it. So I love the idea that these poets are not apologizing for their disabilities. They're kind of saying, this is what I went through, and their body becomes part of their story, and it becomes part of their aesthetics.
And is this available locally now, or how?
Yeah, you could totally find it at the Twig bookstore. It's on Amazon, and you don't even have to consider yourself a poet. Read the opening essays to each section, and then you're going to want to read the poetry. And Sheila Black has a certain kind of disability where she has what they call resistant D rickets. So she had bowed legs when she was younger, and she had a shorter stature than normal. And there was this whole thing about having to straighten her legs, and eventually she went through an operation, they straightened it. But her book is about her poem, one of her poems in this anthology, mourns that earlier body. Like maybe she didn't want to lose it. But there was this idea like, oh my God, you have to be taller, you have to have straight legs. So this whole idea of challenging what is a normal body, can that definition widen? And so I just love the questions they're asking. I'm sure I haven't done it nearly enough justice, but it's a beautiful anthology of just powerful poets, and they're a wonderful example of the amazing things the Disability Poetics is doing now. And I love the title, Beauty is a Verb. Just that makes you think.
And the cover, my God, that's a
like look at the cover,
a woman underwater on a
in a wheelchair.
In a wheelchair with her hair floating upwards. It's just amazing. That's a great photograph.
Yeah,
okay.
it kind of blows open any conceptions you might have about disabilities.
Okay,
yeah.
Beauty is a verb. Okay, well, we have you brought a whole wonderful.
Yeah. Sorry, we won't talk about all. The next one is about the amazing
number
local
93.
Yeah, look at I have more. Look, yeah, I'm hopeless. This is by the wonderful Barbara Renaud Gonzalez, who's wonderful writer. She's got an earlier book called Las Nalgas de Hielo that was put out by Aztlán Libre Press, great local press. So they've published her as well. This is her latest book. It's out by 2018, and it's a book about Willie Velázquez, who was the founder of the Southwest the Southwest Education Voters Registration Project. And he was born in 1944, died in 1988, short life, but he basically doubled the amount of Latino elected officials when he was doing his activism. But I love the idea of this book. Barbara comes up with the idea that in 2018 he's being reborn 30 years after his death. And it's basically, it's an epistolary quote-unquote novel. It's all these letters, and you kind of witness his life and how he became this activist and really became a pivotal force in the Latino movement and with voter registration rights. But it's done in a very lively, down-to-earth way. Like there's letters that begin with, "Dear all of you who are different, lonely, and definitely not most popular," or "Dear St. Mary's University," which was the university he went to, that he was educated at, or "Dear Vatos Locos, brothers from the barrio, good and bad men, young men especially." So I loved the voice in this selection of letters that Barbara writes that bring him really to life and kind of unbury, make him more well known for the amazing things he did. So it's just a wonderful kind of version of a history book, but told in a really poetic, lyrical way. And then it brings him totally to life, who was an amazing character.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another book for you. Dear San Antonio, I'm gone, but not lost.
Yeah. So Willie Velázquez once again brought back from the dead.
Oh yeah, this is one of the authors who's been here several times with us.
Yeah, John Philip Santos. I just love this book, Places Left Unfinished at the Time of Creation. It was a finals for the National Book Award in 2000. It's just a beautiful lyrical exploration of what family is, from the roots in Mexico to San Antonio. But he's got this great opening section on Las Viejitas and his old tias. And the poet in me just loves it. Like he really brings to life all the quirkiness, strangeness, and haunting tales that make up a family. And it's a special, special book.
And his final book here.
I'm cheating. It's number 6. This is a Crown for Gumenthindo by the amazing Lorena Guerrero, who's been our San Antonio Poet Laureate and Texas Poet Laureate. I picked this because it's actually one of the first books I read when I came to San Antonio. I hadn't been hired by Gemini Ink yet, and I went to her book launch at the Coates Hall at the Southwest School of Art, the Coates Chapel. It's just a beautiful crown of sonnets, so it's these 14 sonnets, each with linked inextricably, and they lead up to one final 15th sonnet about the death of her grandfather. But it's paired with beautiful artwork by Maceo Montoya. And this is truly a gift that you could give if you really want to kind of gift someone. You know, it's a book about grief, but it's very viscerally written. It's only in the way Lorianne could do it, and paired with these amazing pictures. I think it really brings to life her grandfather, this kind of journey she goes through with grief, and just these beautiful paintings. So I just found it a wonderful combination of visual artwork and poetry working together.
Well, this is a great bookshelf.
There's more.
There's more that you're providing us today. But again, giving this kind of stuff is a gift that lasts for a long time. It's not pop. It's not something that you. This is a book. These are books that you give to your children, and their children will give it to theirs, and they're San Antonio books. So, look, this is great for Gemini Ink to be part of Hidden Histories, and we're doing good.
Yeah, no, thanks so much.
In the beginning was the word. Thank you so much. Great. We're back here with guitarist, songwriter, poet, community activist, and just a really good guy, Julio Lopez. We've only been friends for about 8 years now, 9 years, and I feel like this is one of the directions of where Chicano music is going into the next decade, where they're dedicated people, craftsmen, and very concerned about the world and that we live in, and are trying to offer solutions rather just than pointing out the problems. And I'm very proud of the work you're doing. Your band's fantastic. Your solo work is fantastic. But if you could give a gift to someone this stocking stuffing time of year, what music would you want to give a friend?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. And, I'm always happy to come out and support Urban-15 and all the work y'all do and stuff. So thank you for that.
Cool.
So when I found out you were going to ask me that question, I kind of panicked a little bit because there's just so much out there. There's so much music from my childhood and, currently that I'm listening to, and, so much local music. So it's difficult to pick top 5, when I only have that much time. But I wrote down some things. There is a piano player from Ethiopia named, and I don't want to butcher this name, but this is Amoy Sege Mariam Gabrou. She's amazing. She's got an amazing album. I came across it once listening to just Ethiopian music and the Ethiopics collection. So that album is a huge influence of mine. It's sad, it's bluesy, it's jazzy. I love it. There's albums like Carole King's Tapestry that were also hugely influential to me. Albums like Café Tacuba's MTV Unplugged was awesome. Stuff by Chico Trujillo is great. I love the Pérez Prado stuff. So all those, have been kind of a part of my growing up, and currently Natalia Lafourcade is another one as well that I've been listening to obsessively, I think. But then local artists, Alyson, we've known each other for a long time, and any chance I get to see her play and perform, it's awesome. It's a wonderful treat. The stuff that Eddie and the Valiants are doing, I know they just put out a record out, and they're going to be putting out some other stuff. They do amazing for preserving San Antonio music and playing stuff from the Royal Jesters, and making sure that they stay true to the West Side sound, including the instruments that some of them play. Are making sure that they're from the right era as well. And there's bands like Fea that are doing some pretty awesome things nationally, doing a lot of touring. Groups here in town like Nahualatos and stuff are, all part of what kind of influences myself and makes the, San Antonio music what it is and important, I guess in the grand scheme of things. So I think any music from those artists, I think is great.
Well,
and others.
One of the things about music, though, is you got to have a voice or you have an instrument. What was the first music store you ever bought an instrument from? Because that's a piece of history.
Yeah, I think the first instrument that I wanted to play, or that my introduction to wanting to play music was the accordion, and I had taken a trip with family to Mexico, and they had a friend of theirs from the neighborhood who was traveling with us, and on our way back we got pulled over by Immigration Border Patrol and asked us to get out and take everything out of our van and whatnot. And one of the things they took out was this box that had an accordion. I didn't even know that was there, and so when they asked who it belonged to, and they told them it was their one of the guys that was with us. They asked him to play a Happy Birthday because it was one of the agents' birthdays, and so upon playing Happy Birthday, they let us go, and I think it left this like huge impact in me. Like it just seemed so powerful and amazing how everything changed with this accordion, and their demeanor changed. And so as soon as I got home, I remember asking my mom to get me some classes, get me an accordion, and because it was so expensive at the time, unfortunately I wasn't able to do that, but she found a free mariachi classes that I was able to take part in, and kind of mariachi and guitar and vihuela were the instruments that really got me going. So I'm definitely grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, for me it was Bill's Pawn Shop and Alamo Music in the were the places where we would go to get instruments. Mm-hmm. And so many bands, they would buy their instruments, and then they needed money, so they all ended up at Bill's Pawn Shop. Right. And they're on the west side, and the instruments would recycle, and people would donate them back to the original owners. And things were moving in that way. But there was kind of like a hidden economy of musical instruments that just floated, and then people gifted instruments, to each other as well. Your bands now have been exploring a lot of the edges of the clash, mixing with norteño, mixing with political genres and stuff, and you've done it very well. Do you have something that maybe you could play for us tonight that kind of shows this amazing melting pot of stuff that you do? And if you could explain what you do before we hear you, I'd love it.
Yeah, of course. I think so. A lot of the songs that we play with Los de Esta Noche, I kind of just wrote in my room, on the acoustic guitar, and it just sort of developed. And but yeah, like you said, a lot of those bands, The Clash, Iggy Pop, all those musicians, certainly influence the performance aspect of it, and that raw energy that is just kind of, it doesn't hold back. And so the song that I'll be playing tonight is one of the first songs that I wrote that later became a part of the repertoire that we have with Los de Esta Noche, called Situlo, which just really, it's sort of short for something for if you, and then there's no kind of ending to that and stuff. So it's just a song that's just about
how old were you when
being
you wrote
brave
the tune?
and stuff. And I'm sorry?
How old were you when you wrote that tune?
I don't know. It probably hitting my 20s, early 20s probably, and so maybe not too long ago. I'm 35 now, so.
You're young. Yeah. Hidden Histories. This is the last episode of season 2. We are going to bring you back in a few months with the beginning of season 3. We have more leads right now than we have episodes for the next 10 years. Thank you very, very much for all the ideas and all the thoughts that you're bringing into play. Stay in touch and enjoy.
Si tú lo quieres, me puedes matar. No tengo miedo, pues que hay que llegar. ¿Y quién serás? Quiero saber. ¿Qué tanto tiempo se puede esperar? Solo el recuerdo se llegó a alcanzar. Si hay algo más, quiero yo ver. Todo todo siempre queda igual. Cuerpo que no supo andar. He logrado lo que tengo, pero sé que hay que dar. No pierdas la voz si no quieres rogar. Es fácil salir, es fácil marchar. ¿Y quién seré? Quiero saber. El precio de esta vida es que un día la darás. No pierda la esperanza, pues que hay que disfrutar. Si hay algo más, tenemos que ver. Todo siempre queda igual. Cuerpo que no supo andar. He logrado lo que tengo, pero sé que hay que dar. Todo siempre queda igual. Cuerpo que no supo andar. He logrado lo que tengo, pero sé que hay que dar.
Thank you for coming back to Hidden Histories. We have the gift for you that keeps on giving. It's wonderful. San Antonio's most famous musicians. He's been here for a couple of generations, 2. He's been here for a couple of decades, maybe 5 now. He's been an active pianist. He's been a composer, an inspiration, and that's Luvine Elias, who is known throughout the San Antonio for his piano playing, but he also has shaped the sound of San Antonio's rock and pop and what we know as the San Antonio sound. And I talk too much, and Luvine, have fun. That's your tune, right?
I wrote that. It's the original.
When did you, tell me about it.
I wrote that for my daughter when she was first going to get married. She says, Dad, I'm going to get married. I think, well, I have an 18-year-old granddaughter and a 20-year-old grandson, so it was before that, okay? So I was thinking, well, what kind of gift can I give my daughter that no one can take away from her? So I sat there and I says, well, besides putting the band together for her, you know, for her wedding reception, I says, I think I'll write a song for her. And the name of the song is called Boopy's Bossa. Boopy's, like B-O-O-P-Y, that's Boopy, apostrophe S, Bossa. And as you well know what a bossa is, right? It's the one who made a bossa nova famous was the Antonio Carlos Jobim. He made the Girl from Ipanema. And from there, a bunch of bossa novas popped up, and mine was one of them, except it's for Boopy. It's my daughter, you know. So, and the reason I call her Boopy, like as well as you know that, and people that have their children, they give them terms of endearments, right? So her given name is Sonia, S-O-N-I-A. But when she was a little child, I'd always try to scare her, you know, just, I mean, plainly, you know, not to really freak her out or make her cry. But I go like that, and she'd look at me and just look at me, and I try to scare her, and she wouldn't. She'd turn around and laugh at me, and so she was a happy kid, you know. But from there, it went from boo to boop. And then at the time, my wife, she said, well, call her Boopy. If you're going to say that, and I says, okay. So to this day, we still call her Boopy.
Now, what does she call you?
It depends what mood she's in. No.
What was her nickname for Dad?
No, it was just Dad, you know.
Dad.
Yeah, so.
That's a beautiful tune. Did you perform that at the wedding?
Yes, I did.
That's, okay.
And I wrote an arrangement. It was 4 rhythm, drums, bass, guitar, myself, and then a trumpet and sax, who also doubled on flute.
That's the kind of genre of the arrangements that you were working with most of your life, right? 6-piece and 8 to 8-piece at maximum?
Well, I've also written some arrangements, like for Paul Elizondo. He had his orchestra, 3 saxes, 2 bones, and 3 trumpets, and 4 rhythm. I'd write some stuff for them also. Just normal songs, you know. I wouldn't write any originals for them, but I can arrange for them also.
You've been a mainstay in San Antonio's musical culture since the early 60s. Mm-hmm. And can you give me give us some hidden history about how you got into music?
Well, in elementary school, I had piano lessons, and then I could read music. And they says, okay, well, let's see how he does. Let's put him in the church and play some hymns.
So what grade school was that?
The name of it, or
yeah,
the first one, the first 2 years, it was San Fernando.
Yeah, downtown.
Downtown, which the school is no longer, but the gym is still there, and of course the cathedral is still there. So the 1st and 2nd grade, and then from the 2nd grade to the 8th grade, I went to St. Henry's on Flores Street by Nogoluitas. And then from there I went to Lanier.
So you were put into the church as the accompanist at what age?
In elementary school. They knew I could read music, and they said, well, the hymns aren't that difficult, so let's see if he can play in church. So there I was playing the organ and piano during the church for the hymns. And I still play in church today. So.
Your story is very similar to Mary Esther Bernal.
Okay, yes.
Because she went to St. Henry's.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they thrust her into playing at the cathedral like at 14 years old and made her be the choir director at like 15 years old.
Wow.
And she had to learn, on the job, basically.
I know her, but she's never told me that story.
Yeah, she's wonderful, full of stories about San Antonio. Yeah.
Okay.
So you ended up at Lanier, and you were kind of a church-based.
I played in the choir at Lanier. They knew I played piano, so that I was an accompanist for the choir at Lanier. And then I also played trombone in the high school band. And then how I got into the Royal Jesters was the sister of one of the singers, which was Henrietta Hernandez. his sister, Chayito, went to school at the same time I did. So she approached me. She says, hey, my brother has a band, and they need a keyboard player. Well, they actually need an organ player. And they need to know if you'd like to join the band. I said, well, I don't have an organ. He said, well, they have an organ. And I says, why don't you try out? And I says, I've never played in a band before. No, just come try out. So I did. And there they are. Everybody's set up with their instruments. And they says, okay, let's see what you can do, man. So they started playing. And I just sat there and I listened to them. And they played the whole song, and then they all stopped and they looked at me and they said, how come you weren't playing? I said, well, where's the music? I was used to, reading music, and they all looked at me just like what y'all did. Y'all laughed. They laughed at me. And I says, why are y'all laughing at me? He says, we don't use music. We play by, I says, what's that? It's by ear. And I says, really? And that was on OJT. So they says, well, look, here's the chord. Find it. So I said, find it? I said, yeah, reach in there and look for it. But that's how I learned how to play by ear, with those guys. And they helped me and supported me and nurtured me since then. I was a junior in high school. And I was with them for 4 years, from the year 64 to 69. And then from there, I went on to different venues and different styles of music up until today.
Well, you were quite known as an accompanist for solo singers, and also doing a lot of the private parties and the social piano work of almost being a lounge or even a background. I mean, you were known throughout San Antonio as the person, if person needed somebody at the country club, call Luvine. He'll be here. If you need somebody to play an opening for an art gallery, call Luvine. So you became kind of like moving in different social circles than the club or the bar scene in San Antonio. How did that happen?
I played the opening of the Hyatt Hotel down on the river.
During Hemisphere then?
No, that was after that.
After that.
The one that's on the river there by Landry's.
Oh, okay.
And they said, well, they need piano players there to play from 8 in the morning till noon, and then from noon to 5, and then from 5 till, till 10. Of course, they gave me the first shift in the morning after I get through playing late at night. So I had to get there like 7:30 in the morning and start playing at 8 o'clock. And so that's how I got involved in the hotels, playing like that. And then from there, I went from the Hyatt to the hotel that's on Wurzbach and 10, which is now the Omni, but it used to be the Wyndham. Then from there, I went to La Mansión del Rio. I was there for 10 years. And then after that, it used to be the Four Seasons. Then they changed their name to what it is now. I think it's the Plaza. So I've done the hotel scene. I've done bands, the rock and roll scene, the big bands like Paul Elizondo, Felix Solis, Ramiro Severa. Yeah, I'm pretty versatile.
Well, so this now in this early part of your new career, composing and having your own studio now at home, where are you going?
Working on some of my originals. And then, of course, I record other people.
That piece you played was about 22 years old at least,
Right.
Do you have something that's more recent that you could play for us tonight?
Put me on the spot again, aren't you?
or an oldies but goodies, but let's, we're coming to the end of our show, and
Okay.
this is the gift that we're trying to give our viewers, and if anything, one more piece would just be fantastic. So Luvine, thank you very much, and we'll close out our evening of Hidden Histories and our season with the best. Good night, and we'll see you next year for season 3.